What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are at the Green Room at Irving Plaza, and today we are here with Anthony of After the Burial. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Thank you for some great new music to make 2023 an even better year. These two singles, Nothing Gold and Death Keeps Us From Living. And you released this under like the sort of single title, Embrace the Infinity. Is this like maybe a good indication of what the follow-up to Evergreen is going to sound like, or is this meant to sort of be like a one-off experimental thing for After the Burial?
It's hard to say because, these songs that we released, they were written like in 2020.
Oh, wow.
So it's like I would like to say that's what the record's going to sound like, and I know what half the record sounds like right now, but we still have some more writing to do. So I don't know what's going to come at the end of this year when we wrap up the record. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, but I know what we have right now is really good. So we'll see where it ends up. I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll get the most typical question out of the way then. We have no idea when the next After the Burial album is going to come out. You can't give like a sort of a time frame.
I can tell you this, that after the tour we do with Motionless in White and Knocked Loose and Alpha Wolf, right after that we have about 2 weeks off and we head right into the studio to wrap everything up. So the record should be done by the end of this year, unless there's some crazy sort of setback, you know what I mean? But as right now, if everything goes as planned, end of the year it should be done, and then early release next year. Fingers crossed.
Hell yeah, we can't wait to hear it. As a huge After the Burial fan, if you played me 30 seconds of a song, I could tell that that's off of In Dreams, that's off of Wolves Within, etc. Is it fair to say that After the Burial likes to experiment with their sound more and doesn't really try to stick with a specific formula?
Yeah, I think what happens is we don't like go into an album like, hey, we need to sound like this and it needs to sound like this and let's try this. It's just, hey, I like the way that sounds. Let's build on that. It's just, what do we like? And if we like it, we're going to turn it into a song. So we never really think about, at least we try not to think about, like I don't, and I can speak for Trent too. He doesn't think about what fans want or what he thinks people might want. He just writes what he thinks what he likes, and we build off that. So
because like you have like songs that are like very like melancholy, like a song like To Carry You Away, which I hope you bring back in the set one day, but then you have like a song like Deluge, which is like, I feel like very uplifting and groovy, like it's just a really like motivating track. So is every song almost reflective of like an emotion that you were all feeling at the time, especially since After the Burial throughout your career you've had many trials and tribulations, but also many people connecting with you as well?
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to not, when I write, it's always something real that I'm feeling. It's something that I've gone through. Like To Carry You Away is written about my mom, who passed away. And Deluge is actually written for my wife, which is kind of funny that you brought those both up. Deluge, Blues Solitaire Deluge, I'm talking about her eyes. So it's like the whole, like the Deluge is like, that's what I named it off of. But the whole song's about my wife and I and like our childhood, how we grew up. Like the lyric in that song is just two children waiting at the window for the rain to stop. And that's how it was.
Really
like,
appropriate.
Yeah, I know it's pouring rain. Yeah. But it was, it's like she grew up really poor. I grew up really poor, and we both had hard childhoods. And it's like, like our paths cross, and when it's like we were just two children waiting for the rain to stop, and we found each other. So it's kind of, yeah, just all her songs kind of just reflect like what I'm feeling or what I've been through. It's always something real,
That's how I describe After the Burial's music. It's very, very real. Like you have like the melodies and stuff that almost make it almost fantasy driven in a way, or like dreamy as we've seen with In Dreams, but it is like very real. You take every dream and make it real. That's how I describe like the sound of After the Burial. And when it comes to the lyrical aspect of it, have you always preferred to have music present before you started writing lyrics, or could a lyrical idea maybe help influence the sound of the music itself?
Before I would write lyrics ahead of time, so I'd have like stuff to pull from. But recently on all our new music, I'm listening to the music first, building the patterns, the lyric patterns, and then I'm writing lyrics to the patterns, which I used to not like doing that, but I feel like it's working extremely well, especially versus, like the last two songs we released, Nothing Gold and Death Keeps Us From Living. Like both those songs were written the lyrics were and patterns were written after I got the music, which made it, I feel like, just works with the song more fluidly instead of kind of squeezing parts in and making them fit or taking lyrics away and chopping them up. So I've done both, and right now all our new stuff I'm doing the latter. Like, I'm writing lyrics after the music. So
you don't want to have like the best lyrics ever and then have them be like one syllable over every arrangement, right?
Right, yeah, and then you try to squeeze it in, and sometimes it works. Sometimes I'll write something and it just lines up perfectly, and I'm like, holy shit, okay, well, this is it. So
yeah.
But and then sometimes I'll have all these really great lyrics, and then I want to get them in there, and I'm like, oh, I gotta cut that part out. Now it doesn't make any more sense. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but it works both ways. But you definitely have a great way of confronting your demons in your music, and what you had to overcome from your mom and your fellow bandmates who were lost and whatnot. When you have to confront personal traumas or darkness in a way, does that maybe make the songwriting process just as deteriorating as it can be cathartic in a way? Is there like an art to confronting your demons, so like you don't become what I like to say, a victim of your own product in a way?
Yeah, that's interesting to think about, because there are times where I'm a very empathetic person. Like, it's like I can watch like a movie and be like, have a like a freaking the lump in my throat because I'm trying to hold back tears. I don't know. I feel for people, and so like when if there's like an emotional part of our songs, like, it can hit me. It hits me on stage sometimes, and and I feel like I've gotten better at that as I've gotten older. Because even just as of a year or two ago, I still struggle talking about my mom, struggle talking about Justin, talking about friends that have passed away, and just recently, I've kind of figured out how to confront that and kind of make peace with it in a way. And so, I think ignoring the past or ignoring some sort of trauma isn't good for you. So I think writing about it can be traumatic but also cathartic at the same time. So it's like sometimes it's like the squeeze is worth the juice sort of thing. It's like, yeah, you gotta maybe you're gonna feel something while you're writing this, or feel it when you play live, but someone else is going to feel that too, and they're going to relate, and maybe that helps them along the way,
Absolutely. And you led me perfectly into the next question. First off, I know that your fans are very dedicated and inspired to see how you guys have overcome so much and how you're able to push on through and still continue to make great music. In the end, art is very much open to interpretation. So when a listener maybe makes a song into their own in a way and relates to it, even if their meaning is nothing like what you were intending to write with it, do you think that adds another layer of context to the material?
Yeah, I think so, man. I mean, people were gonna pull whatever they want from the song. It's like they're gonna get what they need to get out of it, and that's like, hey, look, if we're just some sort of, just some sort of gateway for them to figure something out, then that's cool with me,
Of course. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your first album was actually, I know you did a reissue of Rare Form, but In Dreams was really the first album that you were contributing to. So when you joined up with After the Burial, were you looking at forging a future self, and even Rare Form being like, this is how I have to sing, or were you kind of given a little bit of free range to bring your own mix into After the Burial?
Yeah, see, when I first joined, man, there was a lot of for me personally, I felt a lot of pressure to try to fill in those shoes of Nick, which was the original vocalist who was on Forging a Future Self. Love Nick, still a great friend of ours. He visits my house all the time. Him and his wife. Hi Amanda. Hi Nick. But yeah. So there was pressure because Nick was so freaking awesome, and so there was a little bit of pressure. It's yeah, of course I don't want to be I'm the new guy. I don't want to let everybody down. So I think In Dreams was a weird one because we were also separate when it happened. I wasn't with Justin or Trent when I had to do the vocals. I was alone with Will Putney and a friend of mine, Ryan. And looking back, hindsight's always 2020. I just wish we would have been together for that record a little bit more. I feel like you started to really once Wolves Within came out, we started to really kind of figure out who we are and what we want to be and where we want to go. And then, In Dreams was kind of like an experimental album, it seems like,
Very experimental. Like I see like elements like, and forgive the genre labeling, but I know like deathcore fans who love that. I know prog fans who love that album. I know metalcore fans who love that album.
Yeah.
Like I think that's almost like an After the Burial smorgasbord, that album, and I mean it as a compliment. So it's a fantastic record.
Yeah.
But when you do like songs that are like from Rare Form or Forging a Future Self, if you bring out those deep cuts, does it resonate with you or hit you in a different way?
Well, yeah, like when we do like songs off of Forging, it's been a long time, but like I remember, I think that when did that record come out? Like 2008,
I think. Forging.
No, that was Rare Form came out 2008. I think it was like
2006,
4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. Yeah, you might be right at 6.
I was in middle school.
Yeah, so I was in high school, and like I remember listening to that record and be like, God damn, this record is good. This is a true story. I remember sitting in my room listening and be like, I think I could sing for that band if it ever came down to it. Never thinking I would ever be in the band.
Little
ever.
did you know.
Little did I know, but I just remember thinking like, I like this style. I feel like I could do that for this band. And then all of a sudden I end up in the band a few years later. But when we play them live, like I feel the songs. Nick was a great writer, and as far as Rare Form goes, Trent wrote all the vocals and patterns for that record. I believe Nick wrote Berserker, but Trent had to take over all the writing duties when they got their next singer, Grant, who that was very short-lived. I was like, I think 6 or 7 months he was in the band, but Trent had to do all the writing for that. So like when I read the lyrics, I was like, Trent, these are actually good lyrics. Like, I know you guys had your falling out with the vocalist, but these are good lyrics. And Trent was like, dude, I wrote all those lyrics. I'm like, wow, like I'm impressed, dude. Like they're good lyrics. So like I feel what Trent's saying, and I said, I can empathize with people, and I can kind of get lost in like the meaning and really feel that meaning and try to give it to the crowd, especially like when we play Drifts. It's like my roots run deep through veins. Like I feel that. It's like that's one of my favorite parts,
You can perform it so well too, and the crowd
Thank
is
you.
crazy when you play it. Now this year marks also 10 years of Wolves Within. Happy 10-year anniversary to that album.
Shit, yeah. Thank you.
Well, your reaction. I was going to ask if there could be some sort of celebration of that album, and what was the sort of memory behind the making of that album, and how you progressed to albums such as Evergreen and so forth.
Wolves Within was it was an interesting album. I remember where I was sitting on Justin's couch writing that record for over a month, and I just remember working hard on that record, and the vocals on that record. It was one of the best times I had in the studio because we were fresh off of a tour. Excuse me. And so I felt like my voice was very strong. The mix doesn't really translate that, but one of the hardest songs to write on that record, believe it or not, was a song called Pennyweight. And we attempted to write that song. I tried 4 different versions of that song myself. Then I had Justin come in and be like, dude, I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. Can you think of something here? Justin sat down and he tried, and he's like, dude, I'm struggling too. I shot it over to Trent. Trent was like, dude, he tried, and he's like, I don't know. And then finally it's like one of those times where you get, I'm sure some like singer-songwriters will know what I'm talking about. You get so mad, you want to like break something. And I just remember just getting super frustrated and be like, all right. And then I cleared all everything I had going. I just deleted it, and I just tried this whole new thing and a whole new concept. And I wrote that song about California, about being home, like where I grew up.
Took the Chili Peppers route.
Yeah, and it freaking worked, and I love that song. So that's like one of the more interesting things, like for me personally, is like that memory of writing that song and the memories of being in that studio. And my voice felt really good, and I've never been able to get back there because usually we'll go on tour, it'll be months later, then we go in the studio. So like after the end of that Motionless in White Knocked Loose tour, 2 weeks off, then I'm right in the studio. So I'm hoping I'm sound really powerful, so I can use all my range.
I know you'll knock it out of the
I
park.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When it comes, and you kind of led me into another question I wanted to ask you, because you are sometimes working on a song for days and weeks, months even, but your music captures such a moment and time for your listeners. Do you find it like the longer you work on something, the harder it is to sort of like maintain that emotion in a way, or is that not really an obstacle?
Yeah, I think it can be hard because like you don't want to like kind of like beat the dead horse, so to speak. Like I don't want to like keep saying the same thing over and over and over in the song. So it's like I want the song to take you somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. It can be challenging, but I feel like I'm pretty aware of it. So like I think I can navigate through that. Okay,
Yeah. In order to get like that inspiration, that creative energy, is that something you could really seek out and go out and look for, or does the inspiration like have to strike you in a way?
I don't know, like for me, it strikes me like like something will be like, ooh, like I'll hear something. Sometimes I'll mishear what someone said, and I'll be like, oh, and I'll be like, oh shit, I'm gonna write that down because I misheard someone say something. I'm like, well, that sounds cool. I'm gonna use that, or like, like I'll just, like I'll hear stuff. I'll get motivated by something, but then I think about, like if I'm constantly working on writing, constantly trying to be inspired, it's almost like you're showing up, and as long as you show up, maybe today it won't happen, maybe tomorrow it won't happen, maybe a week from now it won't happen, but maybe 2 weeks after showing up, something hits you. It's that aha moment, and you have your perfect chorus or that perfect line. Like Lost in the Static, like I knew the chorus before I knew the rest of the song. So I knew what that was going to be, but then I had to find everything else. And even the beginning of Lost in the Static, and in the end, I will show you that this life is only madness. That was a completely different lyric. And I had to go find that lyric. And so it took some work. So sometimes it can be both.
Is it a different energy depending if it's coming from an internal source or an external source? Because I feel like you, with your relatively experimental sound, you also are able to sort of like not only bring in different sounds, but bring in different subject matters too.
Yeah, I think, when it comes from within, it's easier for me because it's like, hey, I'm feeling this. I know exactly how I'm feeling. I can tell you what I'm feeling. Here it is in words, or here's what I've been through. And then, if it's like something that comes from, externally, like let's say it's like some sort of like book or like feeling I got from a book or a movie, not really a movie, but, a book or something. It's like I can also translate that as well, but I feel like everything that comes internally, to me personally, I feel like it comes out better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it resonates. Like you wrote a song about California, which I know that had like an internal place of where you grew up, but I mean, how many songs have we heard about California in a way, in terms? So like, I think in the end, like it has not only a diverse way of coming from within or without, but it has a diverse way of how it enters the minds and the souls of your fans too.
Right. Yeah. Like that's perfect explanation. Like Pennyweight, it was written internally, but Behold the Crown was written off of a book. So, it was inspired by a book that I read, and that one worked too. So I don't know.
And just for a final portion, I wanted to talk about the live show. First and foremost, is there at all a similar energy that you channel into playing live as you do in your songwriting, or are they two completely separate forms of self-expression?
Oh, I mean, when I'm performing live and I'm singing those words, I'm really like, I'm like telling you, like, to me, I'm like, this is how I feel. This is like real. This is like something I went through. So like when I'm doing it live, like I'm like, if there's a part that means a lot to me, I'm gonna scream it with like passion. So there's passion there, but also there's a whole different part of live is just so much more than performing. Performing is easy. Performing is the easiest part ever. Like, especially if I can move on stage and I can groove and I can bang, like kind of get my, feel the beat and like feel everybody, like I can vibe with everyone. But there's also that side of like I've got to talk to the crowd, I got to entertain, like I gotta not stumble, I gotta look a certain way. There's like all these different things that go into being live that, like, you know, I don't know if a lot of vocalists talk about this, but it's part of the show, you know. And it's like that, to me, that's the most pressure of being like a front man in any band, is like talking to the crowd, you know?
I know exactly what you mean. You actually led me perfectly, because like is crowd interaction and stage presence, is that almost something that you can actually like practice in a way, or is that just comes as a natural evolution as a front man?
I think for some guys, they just are naturally great at it. You know, like there's those super charismatic frontmen. Like, you know, to me, CJ from Die Hard is Murder, very charismatic, just a awesome dude on stage. He's fun. He's cool. Courtney is killing it on this tour. From Courtney from Spirit Box, and she's so charismatic on stage. Her vibe is cool. She knows where to be, what to look, and it's like I'm always like studying people like that. I'm just like, you know, I'm a musician, so like I'm always, and when I hear music, I listen and I study. And when I see performers performing on stage, I'm watching and taking notes. I don't care how big your band is. Like if you're doing something, I'm always learning and trying to figure out how to be better. So for me personally, performing is easy. Talking, being charismatic is definitely the hardest part. You want to relate. You want to let people in. You want to give people something. At least I feel like I want to give people something different.
Yeah.
I want to give them something more sincere and intimate, you know?
Of course, like, I mean, not to compare, like, it's definitely not comedy what you do, but, like, you know, nothing is worse for a comedian when they say something and then they hear crickets. It's the same thing, too. Like, if you're talking to a crowd and, like, you know, I've seen it happen, too. Like, this song is a fuck you to this, or this song is dedicated to this, and people are like, what?
Crickets.
And, oh, my God, and it's so painful, and I feel so bad, so.
And that's something I think you learn as, like, you get better, you know, like for me at least, like I said, some guys are just natural. They just got it. They kill it. They just got that power, you know, like it's just in them. And then some people like me got to work on it. And, you know, I've heard the crickets before, trust me. And I've learned a lot from being in this band. And like, you know, there's, you know, like I said, I'm always learning and growing. So like now I try to like, you know, even just like speaking into a microphone, it's like we make fun of Trent all the time because he'll say stuff in the microphone. It's like, dude, you got to talk more clearly and concise, man. No one can hear you. And he even makes fun of himself. He's like, yeah, he's like, I mean, I said something, but no one knows what the fuck I'm talking about. And I'm like, yeah, it happens, dude.
Actually, there was one song about songwriting that I forgot to ask, because in the end, you know, it is a band and, you know, you all channel your emotion into it. Do all of you really need to, you know, you're all individuals though, so, you know, you all have your different experiences and you are all going through different things. Do all of you need to be in the same headspace when writing music together, or could your different headspaces actually help enhance your very diverse sound?
Yeah, I think it can help. You know, okay, so like Nothing Gold, you know, the song we just released recently. Trent, he's like, he hadn't heard the vocals yet, and he heard the lyrics. He didn't really know what they were about, and I had the whole fucking song written. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, like he's like, the way I feel about this song is like super triumphant, and like I'm like picturing this, like he's like picturing all this like positive triumphant stuff, and I'm thinking, I just wrote like one of the saddest fucking songs ever. You know what I mean? Like it's not that sad, but you know what I mean? It's like very like, it was written in a time where I thought our careers were done for, you know? So it's like nothing gold can stay. It's Robert Frost, you know? It's like nothing can last forever. So like he felt this way from the song, and when I heard the song, I felt this whole different mood from it. And I remember sitting in Will's, we were at Will Putney's place recording, and it was in the winter, and it was up in New Jersey, and all the trees were barren, and it was cold out, and it was gray. And I remember looking out and just feeling like this very like moody, like kind of like almost like, yeah, like depressed kind of feel, like vibe, like melancholy vibe when I heard the song. And it had that like melodic melody going in the background of the riff, and I immediately, I was just like, and I just started writing, and the lyrics came, and it was just like nonstop, and that song just like was just easy.
it's a very organic track, like, so I think it is one of the best After the Burial tracks. So
Thank you.
like, I put it in my top 10 favorite tracks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is circling back to the live, is that After the Burial has played with so many different bands. I mean, just to name a couple tours, I saw you guys on Summer Slaughter with Cannibal Corpse. I saw you play with Thy Art Is Murder. I saw you play with Killswitch Engage. I saw you play with the Acacia Strain, and now you're on tour right now with Spirit Box. Have you noticed different crowds and different reactions and really just different vibes depending on the shows you've been on?
Oh yeah. It's definitely different, and it's like, look, I'm not knocking anyone's fans or like any people, because listen, like, some people just haven't heard of us, and some people are seeing us for the first time, and some people are like, holy shit, what is this? Some people are like, holy shit, what is this? You know what I mean? It's like, and you can't, there's like, I'm not mad at anyone. So it's like, some fans, it's like harder to get them, and some of them it's just easier. So it's like, you know, like even on this tour, I feel like some nights it's like some of these people are like, holy shit, and then you see this, and then it's like, you know what I mean, and then it changes, and like by the third song comes, they're just like, they get it, you know what I mean. And then sometimes it takes a little longer. We are very like, kind of, you know, we're a unique sounding band, I feel like, and you know, like, we have unique fans, and once we get a fan, I feel like they don't leave us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're there.
You have some of the coolest fans I've ever met at any like show.
Totally.
I go to concerts for every single day, and I love just hanging out with your fans and stuff. So it's always a great vibe.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about playing with these different, you know, like, these fans, some of these fans that have heard Spirit Box haven't really heard much of some of them haven't heard much of anything else, and then they come to these shows, and now they're like, oh shit, I like that band Intervals, and they're like, I really like that band After the Burial too. So it's like, we're making new fans, and there's some people that are like, you know, like, oh, I'm going to go see After the Burial, and then they watch Spirit Box, and like, I actually really like Spirit Box now too. So it's, that's one of the great things, like, you know, with us, is like, we can kind of get in there and translate to a lot of different people, you know.
Absolutely, and you definitely succeed with that as well. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such a great conversation. Just as a fan of metal, it's great to have After the Burial on the show. Is there just anything else with After the Burial that you'd like to promote in terms of other new music that we could be expecting, other tours coming up that you're allowed to talk about, of course?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything's been announced. We do Milwaukee Metal Fest later here in May, and then we do the Blue Ridge Fest, and then we're doing a few. Everything's going to be announced. There's like a few off shows before that Motionless in White tour, and that's really it for this year. After that, we're going to be right into the studio, and then whatever happens next year, we'll find out.
I look forward to seeing whatever that could be.
Me too.
Yeah, but thank you so much, everybody. We are here with After the Burial. New singles out, Nothing Gold and Death Keeps Us From Living. Be sure to check those out. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.